Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 292. This is 289 weeks in a row. We're brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder as well as njheroesprogram.com, where we help heroes for the dream of home ownership and also to help them sell their homes. Anyway, today, really special guest. Every week is a special guest, by the way. We have Nikki Miller. Nikki Miller is the founder and CEO of the Lead Syndicate. We're going to talk about what that is, but this person I have described in our promo post as dynamic. She is amazing. She is absolutely dynamic, and she knows what she's talking about. And for those people that don't want to do it themselves, this is the person to talk to, because I think she invented, I don't want to do it myself. There's got to be a better way. So anyway, as we get started, let's go to the intro. Hit it, Nelson.
Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team.
Okie dokie. So I gave a really brief intro. There is so much more. Let me see how you've been here, you've been there. You started at a young age saying you want to do this, you want to do that, and that's really important, because I don't think anybody in their lives say that they want to be in the real estate business or be a real estate person when they're young. I'm not saying you did, but you had a path that was really cool. But before we get started with that, Nikki, I have to ask you the one question I ask everybody on this broadcast. And that question is, it's called Real Estate Talk TGIF. What does TGIF stand for?
Thank God it's Friday.
You're really close. And I want to thank you for trying, because everybody, it's about 95% get it incorrect.
Am I failing already?
No, you're not failing. No. You're okay. It's just a question that, there's only one right answer. And that's, thank God it's finale. So,
Okay. All right.
I just want to put that out there, and just, my show, I call it anything I want.
That's right. You get to make the rules while we're here.
So cool. So Nikki, your journey, your path, your start. I mean, I've learned an awful lot about you over the past weeks. And tell us yourself, I mean, where did you start? How did you get from, being that person you were growing up to, being this lion, this person that is now running the Lead Syndicate and helping people every day? Talk to me about that. Then give us that journey.
I think I'm a great example, Dave, of someone who probably isn't all that special and is just too dogged and stupid to quit. I started my real estate career much like everybody does. I did get the gift of finding what I loved really early. I found real estate really young. And I started on the brokerage side very early. I was 22 years old when I joined my first brokerage. And I did what they told me to do. I went through all the new agent training and ended up becoming like a pretty successful individual agent. And then I kind of hit my ceiling of achievement, like as every individual agent does. And I went into my leadership at the time and I said, okay, I've hit my ceiling of achievement. And at this time, I'm so young. I'm had probably been about a year in. I was like the top individual agent in our office, and I was 23 years old. And I didn't have anything. Like I didn't have I have a daughter now. I didn't have that. I wasn't even married at the time. I had no responsibilities. Like I didn't even have a goldfish. Like I had nothing at all. And I was pretty clear that if I was hitting my ceiling of achievement without having any responsibility and working as much as I was working without having really a life, like all I did was work. And I was okay with that at the time, by the way, but I was looking to my future and saying, I'm not going to be able to sustain this forever.
Right.
And by the way, I'm missing out on business because I don't have time to prospect or energy or whatever it is. So I went into my team leader and I said, hey, I've hit my ceiling and I don't really know what to do now. And she said, okay, well, now we're going to get you a coach and we're going to send you to classes and we're going to teach you how to hire people and we're going to teach you how to fire people and we're going to teach you how to build systems and we're going to teach you how to build models and we're going to teach you how to grow this thing. And I said, no, I don't I don't think you heard me correctly. I came in here because I'm out of time. Like I don't have any more time, and I need help because I don't have any more capacity. And everything that you just told me sounds a whole lot like more jobs.
Right.
So and she said, the famous words I hear all the time in real estate, which is, this is the way it's always been done. And I said, okay, well, I guess if you haven't steered me wrong yet, so I'll go and follow that path. And I did, and had the results that I sort of expected that I would have, which was I started doing the roller coaster that a lot of individual agents do. And I took my time and attention away from building relationships and doing prospecting, and started to try to hire and build systems and do all these things. And it was a disaster, and I hated it as much as I thought I would hate it.
Right.
And frankly, I had such anxiety and stress about having overhead and about managing people, and then having to remanage when somebody didn't work out or when they quit or whatever. And it just was totally demotivating to me. Like I just felt like I had all this momentum, and somebody just completely took the wind out of my sails. And so I went back in her office like 6 months later, 6 months into the roller coaster, and said, hey, thanks so much for all these classes and like for the coach and all that, but I don't want to do any of this. And she said, what? And I said, yeah, I don't want to do any of this. Somebody before me has figured this out, and I would really like to pay them to do it. And she said, you can't do that. That doesn't exist. And I said, well, what are my options then? And she said, you could join a team. And at this time, I'm a successful individual agent. I had a brand that people recognized and
Right.
a model. And I was like, well, I don't want to give that up. I don't want to give up my brand. And frankly, I didn't like the financial model of teams. I don't want to put my production under them. I wanted to be able to own my business. That's why most of us got into real estate in the first place. Alternatively, I really didn't want to have to build it out myself. And I said, so what are my options? She said, well, you could just stay where you are. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. And I said, well, that's not sustainable either. And so she said, well, then I guess you'll figure it out. And she wasn't wrong. I left that office that day saying, there's got to be a better way. Somebody's got to figure out that way. And so sort of by force, I ended up building it out myself. I built a successful expansion team through California. And then I became a team leader of what at the time, CEO, manager of what at the time was one of the largest brokerages in all of California. So we had
Sacramento, right?
no, that was I moved back to Southern California.
Okay. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Sorry.
And so there we had 500 agents. We were doing like 2 billion in sales volume a year. And it was there that I realized that this was not a unique problem to me. Every individual agent ever was going through the same cycle, the same problem. And by the way, the thing that killed me the most, Dave, was I was just like the leader before me. When they would come into my office saying, I need help, I would be like, well, you can either join a team, do it yourself, or stay where you are. Like I had no better solution. And I remember I have such a distinct memory. One day, one of my agents came into my office and she looked me dead in the eye and she said, Nikki, somebody has got to figure this out. And I said, I agree. And finally, I felt like a fraud because I looked up and said, man, I've been waiting for a leader to come and solve this instead of just becoming the leader that I was waiting for. And so I left. I literally left that position that day and went out to say, what do I wish I had as a growing agent? If I could build all the economies of scale, support, benefits, infrastructure of being on a team, but allow agents to keep and maintain their own brand, or build all the leverage they need without them having to build it, without them having to have the overhead, could I do that? Is that even possible? Right. And by the way, Dave, everybody was like, you're nuts. Like nobody builds something for individual agents. Nobody could scale like this. This is impossible.
Oh, so.
I said, well, we'll find out. Like you guys can all tell me you were right if I fail. And by the way, I have failed over and over and over again. But we failed now we're in 160 locations across 29 states. Because it turns out there's a lot of individual agents just like me out there who are looking for another way to grow their business.
Nikki, when you say 169 locations, what do you mean?
169 locations across the country that we support agents.
Okay, cool. All right, great. All right. So we're talking about solo agents, and anybody that I've known, look, my experience comes to owning a brokerage up to 6.5 years ago, and teams were really starting to blossom at that time. Really, things have moved so quickly over the past 6.5 years. And one of the things we hear now from numerous masterminds I'm on, being with the company I'm with, and everybody says, look, you're a new agent, you really need to join a team. So is that counter what you're saying, counterintuitive of what we're talking about?
I mean, here's this is going to be unpopular, but I'm just going to say it.
No, I love it. Go ahead.
I think that the brokerages that are bringing in new agents and pushing them to join teams is their way of saying, we don't know how to support you.
It says we suck.
Yeah. And we have no other solution. So we'll just put the burden on the people that we're supposed to serve, which are our teams, and we'll let them figure it out. And by the way, if it doesn't work, we can't be blamed because we'll be like, oh man, that team sucks. And I think if you're a brand new agent, unless it calls you to join a team, like unless you really want to join a team,
right,
and if you're with a brokerage that's pushing you to do that as your only option, you need to get out of there as quickly as possible.
One of the things that I've said for a real long time, and I think that one of the few reasons I walked away from my brokerage was that I believe that most brokerages, and I'm going to say most franchise companies, not the one I'm with, are broken. I don't think they work. I think they forgot about how to help the agent, how to bring the agent forward. For me, I have a really different style than most. Some people might label me as a prick. I enjoy telling people very bluntly, well, you sucked on the phone. This is what we're going to do to fix it. Right. Dave, what do you think? Should I do this? Should I do that? I had an agent the other day tell me that, she had done her first couple of deals and she's going to relax because she's comfortable. And you know what? I said to myself, okay, well, you know what? You're comfortable. You're going to figure that out and then we can talk. But I'm here when you want me because I can't chase and force her to do something she doesn't want to do.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I would offer. I don't know that they suck. What I do believe is that every single one of these companies, I believe two things. Number one, every single one of these companies tries to build a solution for the masses. And that's impossible to do in real estate because every individual and every agent needs something different in terms of how they learn and how they grow. And most of the second thing I would offer, the bigger thing, is that you have a bunch of people in a room who haven't sold real estate ever, or it's been a really, 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 really long time.
Yep.
Who are trying to build systems and provide value and create value propositions for a customer that they don't understand.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And you have to really be either, my opinion, either in the trenches or literally, or you need to be in the trenches with them, figuratively holding their hands through transactions and stuff and seeing what's going on, which is one thing we try to do. I think that they're based, look, the brokerage has always been based on numbers. They said, Dave, it's a numbers game. Recruit. What happens if they don't do any business? It doesn't matter. I had one coach years ago said, if they're not doing any business, get rid of them. And people say, well, what if they do business? He says, people would say they don't cost me anything. This guy's name was Mike Berry years ago. He said, it does cost you. What does it cost me? They're breathing your air. That was his reason. They're there for your coffee. They're breathing your air. Numbers are not, when I talk about broken, I mean, it's all a numbers game. Yeah. And for me, I don't believe that. I mean, you've taken what we should have done as a brokerage and made it into a really great system. So talk more about, that process and how you built that.
Yeah. So like I said, I picked up my head and said, I want to make a vote for the individual because there's a lot of products for brand new agents and there's tons of products for teams, but there's almost nothing that's specifically designed at the time. I don't think anything. We're certainly first to market. And there's nothing that's really designed specifically and exclusively for the individual. Nothing. Right. And so I picked up my head and said, well, I want to make a vote for the individual. I want to make a vote for the individual agent. And I want to show them what's possible and undo some of what I believe are myths in the real estate industry, that in order to succeed at the highest level, you have to join a team or take on a bunch of overhead and hire. And so I started off with a very simple idea of what would it look like for us to provide comprehensive support to those agents. Because I know that one of the biggest challenges for most agents is that the way that we support the agent, we support them, I call it the big five: coaching and training, database management, marketing, transaction management, and supplemental lead generation.
Right.
So we support them in the big five. They are able to get access to pieces of that big five anywhere. Like there are a million companies that do pieces of what we do.
Yeah.
But then it's still up to the agent to put it all together and to make it all talk and to make it all work together, which is where most people get stuck. And so I said, okay, well, what would it look like if we put all these pieces together such that if you have a transaction, you don't have to tell your marketing team, who doesn't have to tell your database team, and you don't have to tell the transaction manager. It just all happens all together. We talk to each other so you don't have to make the lift, right? And so I started with this comprehensive support model, which is still what we do. None of that has changed. And I provided it to the agent. And then what I've asked myself every day since we launched almost 3 years ago now was, how do I make this easier? How do I make this simpler? How do I make it less of a lift for the agent? Because at the end of the day, anyone who tries to sell you, hey, it's set it and forget it and you never have to touch your business again, is full of shit. Like that's not real. And you will always have to touch your business, always.
Yep.
We just want you to spend more and more and more and more time as we progress and as we grow and as we understand the systems better. We want you to spend more and more time in the category of what matters most, which is being in front of your clients, providing a great client experience, and doing your prospecting. Like that's how an agent makes money. No one can convince me otherwise. And nothing, there's nothing to prove anything otherwise. And by the way, I'm not saying that all the other things don't matter. They do. They just don't matter at the expense of what matters most, right? And so we do all those other things so that we're creating this compound interest in the agent's business while they get to focus on what matters most. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to do it. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to spend energy on it. We are doing it. I don't know if that answers that question. If there's anything you want me to expand on.
No, it does. I mean, so basically what you've done is you built a system and processes for that system so the solo agent can actually scale.
Yeah, and be a solo agent. Like it never mattered to me, Dave, to get to be up on stage and take credit for it. Like nothing makes me more proud. I got to watch at a big award ceremony one of our agents walk across the stage and gather her award. And she was the #1 agent and doing this crazy production. And I was cheering her on every step of the way. And nobody knows. Like nobody even knows that it's us who's actually running the business behind the scenes. She gets to take all the credit. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be your team owner up on stage because they're not the ones that did it. You did. You did the work. And most of us got into business in the first place to build our business and our brand. And so I could never stomach the idea of taking that away from somebody. And that's why we built it the way we did.
So when you saw that agent walk across the stage, how did you feel?
I was literally crying in the audience. I was like, and by the way, this agent came to me because she had landed at #4 or 5 for years prior to joining us, because she was continuously beating her head against the wall, trying to figure out how to get beyond her ceiling of achievement. And I have that conversation with people every single day. Hey, this is my 5th year in a row doing 12 transactions a year, or 24 or 30 or 40 or 50 by myself. And I have 3 choices. I can either do it myself, join a team, or stay where I am. And all of those sound awful to me. Help me.
No, absolutely. Because I saw some stuff with you that talked about the 3 costs, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Would you tell me the 3 costs again and go through that quickly?
Yeah.
Well, take your time.
That's probably what I'm best known for. Everybody loves this now. And frankly, the funny thing about this is this really came from me being able to articulate better what my leadership had always been saying to me. And finally, Dave, I was in a conversation with an agent, because this happens a lot, where an agent will trade their commission split for lack of production. And what I mean by that is they'll come to me and they'll say, well, man, I don't want the overhead, but also like the idea of sharing commission is just, man, I would make more if I did it myself. I'm like, right, but you're not doing it yourself. Right. So therefore you will just continuously stay where you are. Right. That's the difference. You keep saying you're going to do it yourself and you're not. And so finally I looked at them. I was like so frustrated in this conversation. Frankly, what became my favorite business model and the thing that people love the most came from one of my worst moments as a coach, because I just got so frustrated, Dave, that I just looked at them and I said, how do you want to pay? How do you want to pay for this? You have three choices. Number one, you can pay for it. In other words, you do it, you spend the time, you spend the money, you spend the energy, you figure it out. And the upside to that, Dave, is that nobody can ever take it away from you, right? It's why almost 90% of lottery winners will lose all their money. It's not because they blow it. It's not because they're irresponsible. It's because they literally haven't acquired the skill to maintain that type of money. They've never had to do that before, right? If they had acquired that skill, they would have kept it, right? And it's the same thing with agents. If you do it yourself, the upside to that is that no one can ever take the knowledge away from you. You will always know how to do that thing. The downside is that this is very slow because there's only so much that you can know and learn and do while you're still running your business, right? So it's a slow path to growth. Option number two is you find somebody else to do it, right? You hire the admin who's experienced and has done it before, therefore you're going to pay more, right? You join the team, you hire the leverage platform, whatever that looks like. You hire somebody else who already knows what they're doing. The upside to this is that you get to go much faster. You don't have to deal with all the bullshit that comes with growing, right? And yet the downside, there's always going to be a cost to any of these, a benefit and a spend. The cost of this is that you have to hold yourself accountable to the spend, right? And here's the example I give our agents. Listen, you can pay top of the line money for a personal trainer or a great gym membership, but if you never show up, you're still not going to be in shape. You have to hold yourself accountable for the spend. In other words, you have to use the leverage that you have to get time back to focus on what matters most. And if you don't do that, then you're right, it's not going to work, right?
Yes.
And then, of course, that leaves us with option number three, which is that you do nothing at all, right? And option number three, the upside, is that you get to stay exactly where you are. Like, you get to stay comfortable. Nothing has to change. You don't have to learn anything. You don't have to grow. You don't have to change behavior. Nothing has to change. And that feels really good. The downside is that, remember, the question is, how do you want to pay, right? And we don't pay for option number three today, and we don't pay for it tomorrow. We pay the compound interest later of not resolving whatever that issue was. And here's what I see with most agents. They come to me and they'll be like, yeah, this is great. Makes total sense. I would love it. But you know what, Nikki, I'm going to save myself a little money and I'm going to do it. This is the year, Nikki. This is the year I'm going to do it. And I'll say, that's amazing. How many years in a row have you said that? And they're like, well, this is the 8th year, but this is the year, Nikki. And I'll say, just make peace with the fact that you're choosing option number three. You're saying you're choosing option number one, but you're choosing option number three. And your business is paying the compound interest of you not breaking through the ceiling, of you not having the leverage. Just make peace with that. And by the way, if that's your decision, that's okay. But don't lie to me and don't lie to yourself. That's how do you want to pay?
Exactly. I heard that and I said, this is beautiful, because we're at a time, this broadcast is being recorded on January 12th, 2024. We're in January, right? Where everybody has these grandiose plans and these goals and all these New Year's resolutions, bullshit. And it's just pretty amazing. And I've realized recently that there's two fears of commitment, right? Which is what you're talking about, because the person says, I'm going to do it myself. They ain't fucking doing it, right? Because their fear is that, shit, that's a lot of work. So I really want to get started doing that. I mean, I'm good the way I am. You know, I'll be okay. I really would like to, but I'm not going to. The other fear of commitment is that if they're really good committed people, the commitment itself, that once they start, they know they can't stop, and it stops them from doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's number three as well. But I see that, I see it in me, honestly. I mean,
by the way, I don't think that we can build models like this unless we're familiar with them ourselves. I mean, the reason the Lead Syndicate exists is because I built what I wish I had. I was at the top of that list. I wanted option number two. Like, no ego. I don't need to have a big team. I don't want to have a big team. Like, I don't want to figure this stuff out. I want to pay somebody who's already done it. I just didn't like the options I had in option number two. I didn't want to join a team, and that was really all that I had available to me. And I didn't want to have the overhead of hiring a super expensive admin.
So let me just give you a quick commercial for Nikki Miller and the Lead Syndicate. I want everybody to know that through my entire career, I was taught to do everything myself. You know, my dad, old style Italian, we do everything ourselves. I managed properties, so I fixed toilets. I painted apartments. I changed faucets. I swept floors. I cleared snow for 25 years. I did everything myself. And I have regrets that along the line, I didn't learn to delegate. And we can just look at it as just delegation as well.
Yeah.
But the point is, I want everybody to know that over the time of owning my brokerage, I wanted to do it myself. And then someone finally told me, Dave, you don't need to know everything. Because if you're the broker and people come to you and they know you know everything, if you say no, you don't have time, you're in trouble, right? Yeah. So basically, I wish that this was available. Well, okay, I wish I was smart enough to find this way back when. And my commercial is really simple. This is the real freaking deal. This is what agents that don't want to be a part of a team because maybe they're selfish, they don't want to share. And I get that 100%. Happens. I see it all the time. But you're either going to pay one way or the other, right? And, number 3, which is you're not going to do anything, that's the worst part. Because let's face it, the feeling of regret is far worse than the feeling of discipline or paying somebody. Would you agree with that?
Well, the hard part about that one too, Dave, is that it sneaks up on you.
Hell yeah.
I think that's the hardest part because I remember when we launched in 2021. So in 2021, life was good for everybody, by the way. Like any real estate professional, life was good. If you had a license and a pulse, you were having your best year yet. And we launched this at the worst time to launch it when nobody needed help with anything or didn't think they needed help. And so we would present the model to people and they would look up and say, we don't need that. We're good. And I would say, but you don't think you need it, but you do. And they were like, no, we're good. We don't need it. And or we're choosing option number 1. Well, this year we have grown astronomically because a lot of those agents in 2021 who said, we're good, we don't need this, chose option number 3. They thought they were good. And so they weren't going to do anything at all. And then now their business is down 60, 80, 100% year over year. And we have agents in our ecosystem who are up 300%, 500%, 1,000% because they realized the gaps and took care of them. And those agents are coming back to us and saying, oh, we're paying for it. Like we still thought we were good in 2022. Maybe things got a little shaky. We started to get nervous. So we tried to start solving the problem, but we spent so long not solving the problem, the compound interest had already started, right? So then they came to us with an even bigger mess than they had before, by the way. And they're feeling constrained because they need support like yesterday, and they need this to be resolved yesterday. And the hardest part about what I do, Dave, is an agent will come to me when they've spent 3 years not resolving the problem. And they'll say 30 days in, they'll be like, well, my life in business hasn't changed. You guys suck and everything sucks. This all sucks. And I'll say, it didn't take you 30 days to get here. It's not going to take me 30 days to get you out. I cannot move that fast. It took you 3 years to build the compound interest of not doing this stuff. I can't fix it in 30 days.
One of the things, Nikki, we see all the time is we see, great people like you talk about their systems and talk about it to a point of this is what we do, but they really don't talk about what they do. So I want to ask you some specifics, if that's okay, what the Lead Syndicate does, because one of the things I heard from you this week was your process of database management. Now you talked about coaching and training, database management, marketing, transaction management, and lead generation, right? Mm-hmm. I want to talk quickly about database management, what you did, because what I heard was we make their people think of them when they think of real estate, which is what it should be anyway. How are you doing that and how are you diving into that?
Yeah, so basically we give, I call it our rules. Like we give the agent the rules of how they need to identify people, right? So you have a database of 1,000 people, but not everybody in that database of 1,000 is the same. You have some people that you met at an open house. You have some people who are your sphere of influence. You have some people who are old, dead, cold leads. You have some people who are, I don't know, past seller leads or past clients or like whatever it is. So you identify to us who they are, which then tells us how to communicate with them. So we do all the touches automatically for the agent, and all the agent needs to do is tell us who we're talking to, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. Because one of the things that I've helped a lot of people do is working with their sphere of influence. I call it the SOI method, and it's been very successful because it's very simple. It's how you have to touch these people. Now, you really clarified and classified your database, your sphere of influence, past customers, open house people. But you also said old, dead, cold leads. Are they a special thing? Are they something that will really work? Because a lot of agents think they're old, dead. Fuck that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. It's funny. I talk a lot about lead generation. A lot of people think like I did not name my business well, Dave. Like we because we're called the Lead Syndicate, a lot of people just think we give leads. Like it's not all we do. It's that we're a leverage platform, but we do work heavily with lead aggregators. So I have a lot of experience with lead generation and lead conversion. And it always makes me laugh a bit when almost every agent who's feeling challenged, especially when they're earlier on in their careers, thinks the solution is more leads. Literally every agent ever. Like I can't tell you how often 50% of the interviews that I do or my team does is an agent being like, I need more leads. My business isn't where I want it to be. I need more leads. And I'll tell you, the best way I can explain this is like one of my favorite stories in our ecosystem. We had an agent who came to us. She's in Georgia, and she came to me, and she used to be, and back in the day, she was like their number one agent. So she was their number one agent. She was super, super successful, and her business for the last 4 or 5 years had just really gone down, year over year over year over year. And she came to me and she said, all I want is to be number one again. Like I want to go and reclaim my spot, and I need more leads. And I said, okay, like let's hear about it. Maybe you do. Usually not, but maybe you're different. And so I said, okay. So I started asking her questions, start going through her business, learning her story. And I said, so how many people total do you have in your database? And she said, 12,000. And I said, you mean 1,200? And I was like, you misspoke. You mean 1,200? And she said, no, I have 12,000. And I said, honey, you don't need a lead ever. Like ever again. You don't need a single lead as long as you live. What you need to do is spend time talking to all 12,000 people that are in your database who already know you and have been in contact with you at some point. You literally have 12,000 people that you could be connecting with, but you're not because you think that top funnel business is better than what lives in that database. And I said, all right, here's my deal. I said, give me 6 months. And if I can't get you in 6 months to be 100% above what you were at this time last year. So if I can't double your business in 6 months, then I will literally return to you every dollar that you have paid to us just by running your database. And I said, I'm not even going to give you a single more lead because you're going to be too busy. Just trust me. And she was like, well, I guess and she was so confident. She was like, I'll take that bet. You're not going to be able to do it. I've tried. And I said, okay, well, let's see. I'm putting my money on the line, by the way.
You are, yeah.
And we did. And I'll tell you, Dave, I was wrong. I didn't increase her business by 100%. She was up 257% year over year.
Hell yeah, baby.
Because she didn't need any more leads. She just needed a better way to talk to people and follow up with people and a system to follow for the people who she was already connecting with. And that's most agents in my experience, Dave.
It is. It is. I mean, look, you said top of funnel. You said, agents, what they say, don't have enough leads. Look, I've been around long enough to know what internet leads were when it started, right? I started working with a coach by the name of Dean Jackson back in the late 90s to lead generate when the internet was just starting to get going. I did pay-per-click on Google when it first started. I was paying like 2 cents for something that now costs you $30 a click. And when the leads would come in, I'd give them to agents. Yeah, it sucked. So it started from the very beginning that the leads suck and that I need more leads, more leads, more leads. So but how do you get through, aside from what you did, Nikki, how do you get through to the agent and sell them on themselves that they really do have enough leads, that they don't need more leads? Is there a general way to do that? Or is it going to take you betting on yourself, your company, to do it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think everybody receives this a little differently. But the way that I usually have this conversation with agents is when you say more leads, what do you mean? Is it that you need more people to talk to about real estate? Is it that you don't want to talk to people about real estate? Like what is it that you feel like you need? Because the hard part about leads too is that everybody's got a different definition of what they are. And a lot of teams will sell that they'll give you a bunch of leads, but what they're really giving you is a bunch of names and phone numbers from a phone book. And that's not to me, in my world, that's not a lead.
Right.
So I think the short answer to your question is it depends. It depends on the agent and it depends on their situation. I'm not saying that some agents don't need leads. Some do. Like, rather, I should say we all do. We just have to define how we want to get those leads and what we want to pay for those leads, because online lead generation is getting harder and more expensive. And so if an agent wants me to pay for online leads or me to connect them to online leads, then the accountability around that just goes up, like way up. Like, you want to do that, you want to run that playbook, like I'm going to be on your tail and you're going to have KPIs that you have to submit and you're going to have to convert at a certain level in order for you to have access to it. So it's totally up to you, Dave. But what I would recommend is that instead of trying to talk to strangers who don't care about you, that you first go to the people who already know you, like you, and trust you. And I just teach you how to have those conversations better. By the way, if you can put both of those together, then all of a sudden you're going to get some momentum. So that's my long way of saying I don't know. And I think it depends on the agent. And some of them just aren't going to get it and they'll suffer the consequences of that. But I can't save everybody.
So you just used a word that some people will call a dirty word. Some people will call a trigger word. Some people will say, screw that word. And that word begins with A, it's accountability. Okay. And you can hold a pencil, a pen, but you can't hold someone accountable. You said yourself, it's a choice. Talk to me about accountability and how does an agent do it on their own?
Yeah. I don't think you do accountability on your own. Like I would consider myself, my personality style, I'm a hard driver. And I am very accountable and very driven. And I don't hold myself accountable. I still have people who force me to do the things that I don't want to do, because there are always parts of our job, no matter how much we love it, that we don't want to do. And it's usually the thing that's going to drive our productivity the most. So yeah, everybody needs accountability and everybody needs support in someone giving them the accountability.
Why don't people stay accountable, Nikki?
Oh, this is a whole podcast in and of itself, Dave. But you know what I've come to understand, Dave, what I really think it comes back to. This is probably not the answer that most people would expect. I think most people don't stay accountable to their goals. I think a lot of people will say, like, people are lazy or they don't care, or they don't they don't believe in it or whatever. I think accountability comes back to our own worthiness. And what I mean by that is that if I believe that I am deserving of the outcome that this accountability will lead me to, then I'm going to do it. Let me give you an example. My health is very important to me because I know that I can't be the mom and friend and leader and wife and all the things that I know I need to be without that. And so no one has to give me accountability around my health. It's just, I know that I am worthy of taking care of myself. So right. I'll come first. That said, if I don't have that intrinsic self-worth, then someone's going to have to push me until I start to build it. And I think a lot of people don't do what they know they should do because they're petrified of the outcome. And like, some people are going to hear that and be like, that's crazy. I'd love to be the top agent in my office. Would you? Because you know what to do. So then I would move back to, why don't you do it? And I don't believe that it's because people are lazy. I mean, sure, some people are, but like, I don't believe it's laziness.
I agree. Yeah, I know.
Everybody can think of a time in their life that they were like, I'm going to get that thing, that award, that product, that purchase, whatever it is. Like, everybody can think of that. You visualize it, you see it, and you're like, that is mine. And then you do what you need to do, even when it's hard, to go and get that thing. So you will remain accountable when you believe yourself to be worthy of the outcome. And so if you're someone who is having trouble with that, I would spend some time looking inward and asking yourself why you don't believe yourself to be worthy of being the business person.
Yeah, and that was a question you asked in one of your posts earlier this year. Is what instead of looking outward, you look inward, right? And dreams, visions, the whole thing is a really important vision. And I'm not using the word why. I don't want to be confused with that. There's a vision and being able to visualize it. Is that something that's really important in what we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're different. I think the vision and the why are very different.
Yeah, I do too.
So I wouldn't get them confused, but I do think vision is important. I mean, I always say that life is an afterthought. Like, we have to see it before we can create it. You have to have the vision in order to understand where you're trying to go and to build the plan in order to get there. So what I would offer is that the vision matters in the sense that you need to have an idea of where you would like to end up. Like, you need to have an idea of what you want the outcome to be. And then if you can work backwards from that, it'll identify how you should be showing up. But I think sometimes people get stuck in this because they're like, well, what if it changes? What if it does? Like, it can change. I can tell you the vision I have for the Lead Syndicate today is night and day from what it was at the beginning. Because as you learn and as you grow and as you change and, you know, your heart changes, your wants change, like, it changes. And so it's okay for that change to make manifest, and you just change the vision along with it, and it'll dictate how you might need to change and how you show up today.
Yeah, I think that's really key. I mean, when we talk about being able to know it, to see it, to achieve it. I mean, one could say it could have something to do with self-esteem as well, but I think that as you achieve it and you go for it. I mean, for me, I will tell you that as I get older, and I don't want anybody to take 40 years to get there, but it's taken me most of my life to understand how I can be driven and at the same time be comfortable. That is something that I think is really difficult to get to. And things are always going to change. I mean, you know, I made some massive changes in my business and what I do 4 months ago, 5 months ago, right?
I mean, listen, I was just going to say, I think a lot of achievers struggle with this. Like, I think a lot of achievers think like, oh, well, if I find myself worthy, then I'm not going to want to, like, I'm not going to work as hard. I need the chip on my shoulder. And I used to really like fundamentally believe that. And I'll tell you, my chip got me a long way. Like, I wanted to prove everybody wrong. And frankly, I was telling a friend this the other day, I sort of laugh at myself because when someone's like, man, Nikki, you're amazing. I'm like, I'd really rather you tell me that I suck and you don't believe in me at all, because that is better for my personality. I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to go and do it all. Right. And yet I found that the more worthy I become or feel, the more my vision expands and broadens, because I'm like, it just opens up and sheds a whole new light on things that I would have never even dreamed of for myself before. So I think a lot of achievers struggle with that. And yet I can assure you, as someone who also has struggled with it, if it's someone's listening, like I would assure you that it will expand what's possible for you as opposed to contracting it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really important is that it's hard to give yourself credit. It's hard. A lot of people I know will say, I love giving gifts. I don't like accepting them. It's like you love telling people how great they are and helping people out, but you don't want them to tell you that. Get the fuck over it, right? You need to accept it instead of saying, like, if someone says, oh, you look good, you lost weight. Yeah, but I got a few more pounds to go. How about saying thank you? That's it, right? How about taking it in? And again, took me many, many years to get to that point. I want everybody to understand that you guys, I mean, anybody out there listening to this, you've got value. You also have people that admire you, believe it or not. And it's really important. I know maybe I've gotten off track a little bit, but just, you know, the Lead Syndicate's about working with solo agents, right? And one of the things that I've had the pleasure of working with is I work with a solo agent mastermind now, which is on once a week. Anybody's interested in discussing that, reach out to me. But that's just on another point. What would you do if you were a brand new agent, Nikki, today?
You know, I get asked this question all the time, and I always feel bad because I don't have a great answer, because my question would be, what do you want to build? It just depends. Like, I would direct you differently if you said, when I look up, my big dream is to build a brokerage or build a team, or I just really love helping people with real estate and I want to do that at a really high level, or I want to be on a team or whatever, I would start with there. Like, what do you want to do? Why are you getting into real estate in the first place?
So let me give you an example. So what do you want to do in real estate? I want to grow generational wealth for my 3-year-old daughter today over the next 10 years.
Okay.
What will you tell that person?
So what you're really telling me is that you want to make as much money as possible in real estate. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
Right. So what I would do with that person is I would say, okay, let's build a plan to help you make as much money as possible. And I would be able to show them in our world how they could do that in a leverage way, because I don't think that you can net what you need to net to grow generational wealth without some type of support. And this isn't a commercial for us. Like, you could find support in a lot of places, but you will need support. If you want to grow beyond doing 12 transactions a year, which is when you really get into growing generational wealth, like, you are going to need support in order to do that at the highest level. So I would offer, how do you want to pay, right? What do you want to build? And then how do you want to pay? And then build your plan from there, right? Anything is possible. You just have to make a decision about how you want to participate in that possibility.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, this has been such a learning experience today. My broadcast, I try to bring on interesting people, have great conversations. We achieved that today, and I want to thank you for doing that.
Okay.
Just a couple of quick things. Anybody, look, I have Nikki's contact information scrolling on the bottom. Her Instagram is right there. Reach out to Nikki and just, have a conversation with her. I know you're going to be at Sales Mastery on February 7th and 8th, or one of those 2 days, out in Hollywood, California. So reach out, go to find out what that is all about. And I'll be glad to let you know about that too. It's going to be a great event. I just have 2 things for you left, Nikki. And the first one is, very importantly, how do I help you grow your business?
I think you did it today. I mean, I think getting to tell people our story is the way that we grow, right, Dave? I think that my favorite part about what I do, I was talking to a power that be in real estate the other day, and they said, what's been your favorite thing? And I think they were expecting me to say the growth or the scale or whatever. And I said, I love that my job is getting to talk to agents and watching their shoulders come down and for them to exhale for the first time in a long time, because they don't have to do it all alone. That's the best part about my job. So
cool. So very cool. And look, I know you've heard of me and you heard about the hat. So
yes, I get a hat.
I wanted you to know that the hat is on its way. I want to thank you so much. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a local young realtor coming on to join us, talk about his business. Oscar Nunez, he was on one of the original shows 5 years ago, and he is going to talk about how he built this business from this young-faced 19-year-old to now a major investor 5 years later. Oscar Nunez, great guy, friend. Can't wait to have him on next week. And Nikki, thanks again. I look forward to, collaborating with you one way or the other, some way, somehow. Stay on for the ending after we finish. Everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you next week with Oscar. Hit it, Nelson.